So you know what, like in terms of what's going on in the tech world, there was some spooky ass stuff that happened recently where these two young kids, I'm old enough to call them kids, I'm in my 30s, they're 21-year-olds at university. They basically took the Facebook Meta Ray-Ban. They basically configured it so that it can identify you by your face and then essentially come up with a backstory about who you are based on information on the internet already. So I'm gonna share my screen and see if I can play the video.
Do you happen to be the person working on like minority stuff for like Muslims in India at all or something? Oh, I've read your work before. It's super cool. I'm Anfu. Nice to meet you. Oh, I love
that. Seems illegal. And oh, that's so creepy. I feel like this is like the dystopian tech future that tech people always talk about, like, and then we're gonna have all these products that do this, and like it's definitely doing that, but that is so creepy. And also, so if he was if the creators of this were just putting all of these different types of things in it, like the Ray-Ban and then all these different devices to identify people, does that mean what he said was a lie? Like, did he never read this man's work? He just
Yeah,
walked
he
up
didn't.
and
Yeah, he didn't. So the way it works is it works with all APIs and stuff that are publicly available. So they didn't actually invent any technology. All they did is combine various technologies that haven't been combined before. So I'm gonna read it out. So they have the Meta glasses, obviously, which was live streaming to Instagram. They use face detection software to capture your face. Then they use a face search engine called Pim Eyes, which apparently is available where it can find websites where your face has appeared. Then it used a ChatGPT-like tool, probably some sort of LLM, to basically then take information from that website and basically put it in a condensable form. So what they're doing is looking at you, taking a picture of your face, then it's going through the databases of like all your images on the internet, using a ChatGPT type tool to basically then give them information in a condensed form. It takes around a minute, which is why they did it at a train station. So they take a picture of you. The reason why a train station is beautiful is because you're just sitting there waiting. If you're walking past me on the street, obviously it's too quick to like really, really happen. So then they came up to each individual person and were like, oh, I've read your work, or were you from this, or whatever, right? So it's still very crude. It took a minute and a half for them to get the information. But they built it in 4 days. So God knows what Secret Service could use. God knows what governments could do if they really put their mind to it. You know, you could have spies coming up to you pretending to be an old friend. Oh, I went to college with you, right? Dom, like you studied this and we sat next to Miss so-and-so, and then they can create a report. And then, you know, it's obviously crazy. So what is really interesting though is that when they released the video, they accompanied it with a Google Docs form, a page, which encouraged people to remove their information from data brokers, which can reveal like names, home address as such, because their tool basically could also get, you know, your home address, you know, potentially your full government name, you know, things that are kind of personal in nature. So yeah, it's a scary ass world. And Facebook came out and released a statement saying that, you know, our glasses had nothing to do with it, that essentially, you know, you could have used any camera for that, and that our glasses at least tell you that we're recording. It has like a little red light apparently when it's recording, right? So I don't know. What's your thoughts on this? Has there been anything in the TechCrunch reporting or anything that you've seen where that has spooked you out this much or is similar? Is it like, what comes to mind?
I'm trying to think. There have been so many creepy things lately, but I think this definitely takes the cake right now because it's so like everyone's biggest fear
Right.
of
Yeah.
just, I mean, imagine just people stalking you. Like Tom Ripley comes to mind of just like putting the glasses on and then being able to, I don't know everything about somebody. Like this obviously is going to get used in the worst ways. Like all tech has like fallen into the craziest people now. And I don't know, like this is so creepy. I'm hoping that the government, hello, Biden, please. But I think that when I was reading the New York Times piece, didn't they say that one of the technologies they used to get people's background, didn't that company say that they like violated their services or something, their terms and services?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, they're going to come out and make that statement, but yeah, I don't think they've broken any laws. I think they might have broken a few TOCs of like a few platforms or whatever, but essentially nothing here is against the law. And it's really giving, go on.
You were going to say it's give Black Mirror?
100%. Yep. Like, I feel like I'm going to walk past you and just see like your Instagram following. I'm going to see that just above your head. I'm going to see, you know, your Yelp reviews, your Google reviews. I'm going to get a picture of who you are as a person and what actually is your value in a really, you know, sociopathic way, in the sense that I can be like, oh, you know what, Dom's got this many followers on Instagram. Let me give it a time of day. Whereas this person doesn't, and is not verified or is not whatever. So I know how to treat you according to status based on the online world coming to reality.
Stalkers are going to go crazy. This is going to go crazy in the stalker group chat. Like, and this is another thing that makes me think about tech platforms and who is responsible for the technology that people create and who is responsible in case something goes wrong. Because like obviously a device like this could be used for great things, but also the worst things ever. And who is going to be responsible for that?
Yeah, you know what, actually? So I follow this TikTok account of this woman who's a private eye. She's a private detective. And most of her job is literally just parking outside gyms and watching people who are apparently cheating on their spouse and just confirming it. So there are probably good things for her. Like she could probably use this, like, and, you know, just like quickly find out who's this person, where they're going, who's this affair partner, you know, how do they know each other, stuff like that. But obviously, majority of the use cases are going to be so nefarious and so dark.
This is the first thing they're going to add to the police budget are these glasses.
1,000%, 1,000%,
Oh my
1,000%.
gosh.
All right, stay safe out, everybody. You know what? But you know what? Thinking about it now, in terms of the future we may live in, those COVID masks might make a comeback. That might just now be standard. Let me just protect my identity and let me just keep it. So when I'm outside, ain't nobody out here, you know, facially detecting me with their software, so I can stay as a private, sovereign individual.
But we have those eye things now in the airport where they like read our eyeballs.
Yeah, that's good.
So I think, well, I don't. That's obviously not going to be in like the glasses, but maybe it will become a glasses thing someday, and then you could just read people's eyes, and then now you have to wear sunglasses and a mask.
Yeah. Maybe, or maybe I get some special meta glasses that block your camera. So now we've got camera for camera. Let's go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But listen, I thought to make our lives easier. Now I'm out here running away from stalkers. But anyways, you know, so speaking of AI, so Apple released a research paper, and essentially they came out throwing, I wouldn't say they're throwing shade at it, but it's highly critical of large language models like ChatGPT and Claude, essentially saying that they don't, you know, they're not very capable once you go beneath a certain, you know, superficial layer. They struggle with basic tasks. And if you give complex questions, it deteriorates very fast. And obviously, the reason why I believe Apple was doing this is because they announced that they're going to be integrating ChatGPT with Siri. They struck a partnership, and that's meant to be something on the roadmap. Because Siri is, let's keep it real, I love Siri, but she's not the best. She ain't. You know what I'm saying? She struggles. She don't understand. I'm saying call this person. She's calling my ops. You know what I mean? Make it make sense, right? But with this, I feel like they are now trying to manage expectations about what large language models can do, and ergo what Siri will be with this in tandem, because it's a common criticism that Siri's not that great, and we thought this might be the panacea. So I don't know, what's your thoughts on Apple essentially saying that large language models are not that great? Do you think it's to do with Siri and what Siri could be like in the future?
I think it's humbling the hype. Like so much of this AI stuff, especially from, you know, people like Sam Altman, they've been hyping AI up. But then we've been talking to like experts and like just, you know, normal AI founders. Like it was pretty obvious that, you know, these big dreams that a lot of these tech people have, it wasn't necessary. Like we're not there yet. So I'm not shocked to see that, like, you know, an LLM can't pass the GRE and get into business school. Like I'm not shocked to see that, because this thing is still, people are still building it. And I think, I mean, as what always happens with tech and VC money, people just throw things at like the coolest thing, all the hype, all the vibes. But yeah, I mean, you kind of have to go back and see, like, what is this thing even doing? Like, can it do what we're going to promise people it can? And I mean, no, like if you throw like one, like it was saying, like you throw one irrelevant sentence in, it can't reason it has, like, it cannot reason. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm not shocked to hear this at all.
Yeah, and I also feel like AI with ChatGPT, with Claude, with Perplexity, most of those users, or a lot of them, are kind of like early adopters. So we can kind of work with the errors. Like I can catch an error and say, okay, obviously this clearly it's hallucinating. This is not right. But when you're a company like Apple or even Google, you saw what happened with Gemini. They're at such a scale. They've got so many people using these products and platforms. They have to be ready. They have to be perfect, because you can't have a situation where some kid or teenager or young adult is like, you know, using Siri and it's giving it some crazy answer that's either racist, sexist, or hurtful. And I don't even necessarily mean on a personal level. There's been examples now of, unfortunately, one kid died by suicide because he was using a character AI platform, and it told him, like, you know, to hurt himself if you can't be together, for example. Obviously, I'm not assuming that Apple's going to have a dating AI soon, but I'm just giving an example that when you've got scale and you've got a lot of vulnerable people, you can really mess people up. So Apple can't, you know, release something into the wild at that level.
No, because everyone uses Apple. Like it's like ever, like this is a really big company. It reminds me
Yeah.
of kind of the Google AI overview thing. And I don't know if this is real or not, but I saw on Twitter where they were just like, who are the enemies of Colombia? And they were like, oh, Yale and Cornell, and then they were like, in Venezuela. And we were like, are we talking about the school or the country? They're like, what's going on? What?
Yeah, it's still hallucinating.
Exactly. And this is Google, and we're in an election year. And when people in, I don't know, middle America or like anywhere who's like not on the coast who are like obsessed with tech, when they're Googling like election stuff, like what's going to pop up in that AI overview. So I definitely think like, I don't know, I think I'm on the side of slowing down and seeing what's going on before we just mass adopt technology that clearly still needs a lot more research.
100%. So you mentioned the election. We're going to have to mention it because we're recording Sunday the 27th. So we're days away, a week away, or I think about 10 days away from when we're recording to the results. Have you early voted, or do you know anyone that's early voted, or like what's on your voting plan?
All the girls have early voted. I have my early voting ready. This is gonna be this is gonna be hard. I'm throwing an election night party, and
oh, you're brave.
It's I mean, we gotta be together. I feel like
it's true. One way or the other. It's good to be so good with the community, with the tribe. One way or the other.
You should. Yeah, I mean, depending on the results, you might see me in the UK soon or another country very soon.
We will welcome you with open arms. We will welcome you with open arms. But you know what? They're saying that this is really like the podcast elections. Obviously, Trump has just gone on Joe Rogan. As of recording, it has 26 million views on YouTube. The vice president went on Call Her Daddy. And, I'm kind of worried, I'll be honest with you, because I feel like this is the first election where obviously podcasts have played a prominent role, which is a good thing. But my expectations of new media and what I expected this new world to look like compared to old media is not living up to that. So I always felt like new media, we're going to fix the flaws of old media. We're going to ask the hard hitting questions. We're going to be able to do things and investigate things that couldn't be investigated on the mainstream platforms. But that's not the case. New media, new podcasts, they're actually just like very sycophantic. They're just kissing Trump's ass. They're kissing whoever's there in front of them. Like, I watched Trump on Andrew Schultz's podcast, millions of views. They don't ask him a single hard question. I watched a bit of Rogan. Yeah. He doesn't ask him a single hard question. It's just completely like, so why do you think you're the best? And Trump's like, well, I'm the best because blah, blah, blah. And it's like, as much as we want to be critical of old media, like, and journalistic standards have, historically, they would at least ask a hard question. They would at least press. They would at least be something. And new media, because of probably audience capture, which is this phenomenon where like, if you have got 1 million subscribers on your YouTube, you don't want to piss off your subs. So you are basically just placating to an audience, placating to a tribe. And you can't go and ask Trump these hard questions because you will lose audience. You'll get flamed in the comments section. And so we've invented a new world that's not any better than the old one. Maybe it's even worse.
Yeah, they fall into the same traps of the old media of wanting to please. But you know what else I think people don't realize is that journalism is a skill. And, it's like something that you train for. Critical thinking 100%. Is like, this is a skill. Either you can do it or you struggle a bit. And I think a lot of the time when we see these people interviewing, presidential candidates and they're not asking good questions, it's like, because actually a lot goes into a presidential interview. You have a team of researchers, there's a way to pose the question, there's a way to ask these things, and there's a way to like extract information out of people. And a lot of the times, people just think they can get up with a mic and do it. And it's like, no, like a lot of people go to school for this and you have to start out in like the local papers and you get hazed and you go all the way up. Like, it's not just something with a mic and then you interview Donald Trump. And that's why your questions are like really bad. Like, I don't know. But the new media has fallen into the same traps of the old media, I feel. Like, I don't know. Like, it's been really interesting. I feel like I've been disappointed by so many people, but also, a little disappointed. And I don't know, also, because it's like I wish, and I don't know, maybe this is controversial to say, I do wish that Kamala would have spoken a little bit more to more traditional press. And because I do feel that they would have been able to at least ask some good questions that people in certain voting blocks would have really, really liked to know. And I feel like going to new media channels was a way to kind of skirt around some questions, which 100%. Honestly, the voter makes me suspicious. But I mean, still. So I think I'm disappointed with everybody, actually.
No, 1000%. Her campaign hasn't been flawless, and I think she's been ill-advised. She should have done more press tours. with established media. And I also feel like, to be honest, she probably should have gone on Joe Rogan. I know it sounds controversial to say that, but in a sense that like, I feel like everyone's just gone on the podcasts that directly align with kind of their voting base, which is understandable at the same time. But I'm a big fan of going into the lion's den. At the end of the day, politics is war without violence. So you need to go into the enemy territory and take a few people. You gotta like, and don't get twisted. The majority of Rogan's audience would be like, I don't like this person, but you might get, you know, a percentage, and that might be impactful in a certain state or whatever. Especially
because Kamala needs voter like those swing voters. Like she needs those. Like, this is not like the election is close. She definitely needs swing voters. And, you know, that Trump interview has 24 million views. I bet if Kamala went on, like, it would be just as much, maybe even more, because it would be, like, shocking. And though you need, like, an extra million votes,
1,000%.
like, she's definitely going to need that. So
1,000%.
Tight. This is going to be a tight one.
1,000%. So Nate Silver, who is kind of like the oracle of polls and data, he's been wrong a few times, but he's currently saying that Trump is 50.2% probability of winning the electoral college, and he put Harris down as 49.5%. So it's going to go right down to the wire. And it's astonishing that Trump is even in this position. I'll be honest with you. Like, he is a testament to the velocity of lies. If you just lie at a fast enough, rapid enough pace, people can't keep up. 1, 2, he is benefiting from the TikTokification of people's brain memory. People can't remember what he's done and said over the last like 6, 7, 8 years. Because if I made a list of all the things that he's done and said, let's suspend the Constitution, you know, grab them by the whatever, you'd be like, there's no way on earth this person could, you know, with one of those things, there's no way on earth a person could become president of the US. But if you do all of them, eventually it just becomes, you know what, I can't keep up. Some of this is lies. And he just skirts through. So he's a genius in that sense, but he's an evil genius. So fingers crossed he doesn't pull through, but it wouldn't surprise me if he does. So be careful at that party, man. Make sure there's, you know, you guys are safe and
don't underestimate, you know, the legacy of certain things like racism and sexism in America,
1,000%.
and how that will sway people to vote even against their own interests.
1,000%. And just one last point on Trump's election chances. What makes me feel like he's got the edge is because Jeff Bezos now has killed the Washington Post endorsement of Kamala Harris. So essentially, the Post has done that since 1976. They've endorsed the candidate. So for the first time ever, they won't. And the editorial board came out and said it was purely because of Jeff Bezos. Now, why would Jeff do this? Because Jeff has had a lot of beef with Trump. He claimed in a 2019 lawsuit that Amazon lost a $10 billion cloud computing project with the Pentagon because Trump put pressure on the Pentagon not to give it to him. So if you thought to yourself, this guy's got a 1 in 2 chance of winning, or maybe you've got some inside information that he's got an even better chance than that, you're not going to want to be viewed as an enemy of this person who's vindictive and spiteful.
Did you see the Daily Beast article that came out right after, where it said that I guess like a few days before Bezos pulled the endorsement, Trump was meeting with Blue Origin executives down in Florida.
Wow.
And so that happened I think it happened like a few days before, like a few hours before. And then after that, but I think I read something today that said that Bezos, even back in September, which was, I guess, a month ago, was even on edge about wanting to endorse Kamala. But yeah, the news came out that Trump met with Blue Origin executives, which, I mean, that space contract, that the space contracts have been a big thing. I mean, I guess Elon has one, I believe. But you know that Washington Post, what really hit people was that this was the second time this happened this week, because the LA Times refused, or they couldn't endorse Kamala because their billionaire owner also said no. And so a lot of people were talking about how this is a billionaire class solidarity, but it also brought back to the point of, you know, these billionaires owning these newspapers, you know, what is whose interests are being served here?
Absolutely.
And I mean, 2,000 people canceled their Washington Post subscriptions. And I know that a lot of people were like, don't do that, it hurts the journalists. But also people don't need to financially support institutions that they don't think are going to support them. And 100%. That, I mean, journalists get caught in the crosshairs on this, but it's just really, really upsetting. I don't know. It's really, really, this is, girl, it's getting a little dark over here.
And also, this is not only just a podcast election, this is actually the first kind of tech Republican election, in the sense that you've got Elon completely on Trump's side. Jeff, I think his last tweet was about Trump being shot, kind of expressing solidarity. He hasn't tweeted since. Obviously, Bill Ackman is not tech, but he's kind of tech adjacent. He's an investor that's very popular within tech circles. Andreessen Horowitz came out and made a few statements back in Trump, then kind of reversing, then kind of going back to it. I don't know what they're doing right now. The All In podcast, obviously, a lot of those people are pro-Trump. So this is the first time ever where tech has gone all in on the Republican candidate, at least visibly. Maybe behind the scenes, they've always donated, but visibly, it's now been normalized to basically be a Republican in the higher echelons of tech, which has never been the case before. So would it surprise me if that Jeff has had conversations with Trump and, promised to be like, listen, you're going to be tech forward, like you're saying that you are going to be with Elon. I'm willing to hop on board. I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to support you. It wouldn't surprise me if Jeff Bezos made overtures to Trump and promised things and said things. And that's why he's not willing to come out and say anything. That wouldn't surprise me because Trump and Elon have gone back and forth.
People underestimate power and money and how that speaks. Yep. And they're like, oh my gosh, someone would throw like people under the bus for power. Yes. Yes, they would. The New Yorker had a piece about the tech crypto lobbies and how all these tech people have gotten together to just get out or like to get rid of anti-crypto candidates or candidates who are like, if they don't think they're going to support crypto, they have this super PAC or whatever that is just that gets them out, that's trying to get them out of office. And it's like, this is crypto. This is a thing that like most Americans objectively don't care about. But this is how much power like these tech people have, because they're able to create these super PACs with millions of dollars and, buy these TV ads and all these different things and literally lobby people out of the government. And I mean, I think that was one reason why we saw a statement from Kamala about crypto, which was like, why are you talking about black men in crypto? But it's like, you have to kind of say these things so that these like people are definitely afraid. And that kind of makes me sad. And then it makes me sad that people.
And then but if you look at even on who are the kind of billionaires backing Madam Vice President, you've got Reid Hoffman saying, I'm backing her with my money, but she's got to get rid of Lena Khan, who is in charge of the Federal kind of Trade Commission, who's, I think, is it the FTC? She's in charge of basically overviewing competitions, mergers, and the economy in that sense. So she's blocking mergers. She's also blocking companies doing anti-competitive practices. People are saying that she's anti-business. She's going after tech people.
Responsible. And she's also, it's really those things where it's like the people, I feel, have a different opinion than the billionaire ruling class. But people have the power, but right now, I mean, their money is definitely speaking. So this is going to be a clash coming soon, even regardless of the election results.
1,000%. So I wouldn't even say on less depressing news, because all the news sometimes is a bit depressing, but in business news, Starbucks is looking kind of cooked, I can't lie. So they've reported a decline in sales, customer traffic, 4% decline in global same store sales. The CEOs had to come out and make a statement, basically reversing course on every other decision they made previously. And obviously, I know a lot of our audience probably was either partaking in boycotts or was aware of folks who were boycotting Starbucks because of the whole situation in Gaza. But beyond that, there's a few other reasons, because that's not probably enough to kind of lead to that kind of decline in sales. Do you go to Starbucks less? Before we go into the kind of stated reasons, like what's your experience of Starbucks when you used to go into it? If you've walked in there, like how are you feeling about them as a company, as a brand?
I stopped going. Okay, so I used to drink them religiously in high school. And then
3 years ago.
That 3 years ago.
You're young, man, Gen Z.
I used to drink them a lot in high school. And then, I don't know, I kind of moved, when I went to college, I was really into organic coffee. And I think I'm a lot more mindful about the coffee that I drink, because Americans' food is poison. But so I kind of like moved away from like non-organic, organic, if it's even organic.
Yeah, for real.
And so, but I know I mean, sometimes I drink them, but then I go there, like in my hometown, when I go to get like a Frappuccino sometimes, the lines are very, very long. Most people are waiting in line. No one's going inside anymore. In high school, it's like we would all like hang out there, but things have changed. Like the whole space itself, I think, has changed, or at least in my hometown, it has. I don't know. I guess other people might be feeling the same thing, where like that communal aspect is kind of gone. And the drinks are a little pricey. We are in a cost of living crisis. No matter what the economy says, people are struggling out here. It's like $6 for just straight sugar. I think people are being a little bit more mindful of that.
1,000%. So there was a whole article in Harvard Business Review saying how they lost their focus and the brand has deteriorated, in the sense that they kind of were the vocal pioneers of this whole third space concept, which is like, that space away from work and home. This is the third space to chill. When Starbucks first came out, at least in the UK, they had couches, sofas. It was comfortable. You could chill. Now it's hard wooden chairs. You're running around trying to find a plug. And yeah, they clearly have listened to the bean counters who are like, listen, get people in and out. This whole thing about chilling and whatever, it's not good for the numbers. So I think they've listened to the bean counters and the finance people, and they've deteriorated their product. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
the service has gotten slow too. And I think
100%.
they had a big union push. And I think that a lot of activists, seeing the way that the CEO responded to that, I think it kind of threw them off, because Starbucks was, Starbucks was like your friend, like your friendly coffee place. Like they were supposed to be like, like it's Starbucks. And so I think seeing the way that a lot of the workers were treated during that union push, I definitely think that also kind of turned people off. And then in addition to the boycott of Gaza.
That too. I think any company that was once reliant on a mass labor force that had no bargaining power, that was quote unquote undifferentiated, they feel like they could just swap them out with somebody else. Those companies are going to struggle in the future. People are realizing that, there is power in unions, there is power in bargaining and getting, your wage increased. And I think those companies are going to struggle and their stocks will struggle. And I'm glad that is the case, because, why shouldn't folks in those kind of industries unionize? It's not just, for people in factories and whatever. These people are vulnerable and need, support in negotiating against these large corporations. So shout out to them. But yeah, I'm not losing any sleep. But yeah, it's just interesting how you can have such an unassailable position in a category, to even invent a category, and then eventually you make a few wrong calls, competition, employees bargaining, economic pressures, the bean counters, start telling you to make decisions that are not good for the actual brand, and then there you go, you're struggling. So if they want to hire me to consult, I'll do it for $300 million, and I'll give half of it to Gaza. 300 million. I'll send 150 to Gaza. Actually, I'll send all of it to Gaza. My bad. I'm just joking. The Prime Minister of the UK has come out and said, no reparations, hell no. He told the Commonwealth, fall back, don't even think about it.
He said, look to the future. I was like,
no, but they've been saying that. So like even Tony Blair. So anytime we've had like the left of center guy in charge of the UK government, it always comes up again, because there's this assumption that, oh, he's gonna support reparations, and they're always like, no, like look to the future. We don't owe nothing. We owe you nothing. We have no colonial debts. Blah blah blah. Just to add some context, actually, so it's interesting, the difference between the US and the UK. So obviously one major difference is that the US, had its slavery on the mainland. UK never actually had slavery within the actual entity of the United Kingdom, but it was in the colonies in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, for example, right? But
colony.
Yeah. So the way slavery was ended was that reparations were paid, but not to the slaves, to the slave masters. And in fact, actually, the debt to pay back the slave masters was only recently repaid back, because the government had to take out massive bonds and loans to pay the slave masters for the value of their quote unquote slaves, which is insane. And then the British, revenue collection services tweeted in 2018-19, hey, we've just paid back the debt to, the slave masters, basically not realizing that, hey, this is kind of wild that you're tweeting this with pride. So what's always infuriating is that the establishment always wants to talk about reparations as this thing that can never happen, that will never happen. But it has happened. It's just that you just paid it to the bad guys. And in fact, David Cameron, our previous prime minister, when they did his genealogy, they showed that he was a descendant of those who got reparations, and they went to, they trickled down to him and his lineage. So yeah, this is so corrupt and so evil. It beggars belief.
No, I know. And it's like insanely offensive. Like I have like a little bit of Bayesian ancestry, and it's just like insanely offensive to say like, we're not going to look at the past. And I read the article on the Times UK, and I was like, let me, hurt myself and read the comments. And people saying, they're like, well, no one alive is a slave today, so like, why would we pay? And I'm just like, but the impacts are there, like the trauma, like they had post-traumatic slave disorder, and they talk about it. It was a big thing a while ago, but I definitely think like the trauma is here. The institutions, in terms of the structural racism, is definitely objectively still here. And so, I mean, it's so crazy to think that people can just kind of move on, I guess, and say, oh yeah, that's a thing that happened. And I think I was looking at some of the amounts that were paid and what they are in like today's money, and it's like millions of dollars. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a nice sum to have for the family pot. And then we talk about generational wealth, and it's just like, well, I mean, the reparations, like millions of dollars for the slave owners. That's like, and then to say like, well, we're just gonna like move on now, huh? Like, no, I'm definitely glad the Commonwealth countries were like, no, you're definitely gonna talk to us about this because that's insane. Like, you want to come here and just you want to come to our islands and pretend like that did never happen? Yeah, no way. I'm glad they definitely jumped on that.
How is the reparations conversation going stateside?
We're not getting the money. We're not getting money. That's why I was like, if the UK does pay out reparations, I hope someone finds my file down in Barbados because we are not getting any money. It's not happening. Yeah, we're not getting any money. That would tip to a civil war. They're trying, like, statewide, they're really trying to see what they can do. But it's been so many roadblocks, like so many things. Like yeah, we're not here. We're not.
Okay, no. I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything that you want to plug before we wrap up this episode? Your Substack, I know, is amazing. What's the name of it?
Oh,
remind everyone.
The Black Cat. Subscribe to my Substack.
Link in the bio.
Follow me on Instagram, y'all. I'm trying to get followers up. On Instagram.
Okay, cool. We'll put that all in the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, cool, everyone. That's been this week's Techish. We'll catch you next week. Lots of love. Bye.